Okay. Welcome, super secret agent trainees, to WhizGirls Academy. Today we have a phenomenal guest, Sarah Yourgrau. She is the founder of Common Ground Studios, sorry, and she's going to share her journey with us. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today.
I am so glad to be here with all the WhizGirls, and this is amazing. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you again. All right. So tell us about your childhood.
Sure. So I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. I grew up with a dad who's from South Africa. So we were back and forth between South Africa and Massachusetts and Boston. And I had a really free and playful childhood. I have a twin brother, and anything that my brother did, I did as well. And anything that I did, my brother did as well. Like I took ballet class. My brother had to take a ballet class. My brother tried out for the football team. I tried out for football in my own way. It was a very like freeing and playful exploratory childhood, which I really credit to so much of where I'm at as an adult.
That's awesome. You mentioned ballet and some other things. I know that you really enjoyed ballet, but tell us anything else that like came up like as a child, like hobbies, passions, any of that.
Sure. So when growing up, I was obsessed with Harriet the Spy. I was obsessed with sort of journalism and writing, and so curious about other people's stories. My dad was a playwright growing up, so I would sit in these dark theaters watching these performances, and I was involved a lot in community theater, and I just really became interested in story on any level. So if you remember Harriet the Spy, she would just go around and solve crimes in her neighborhood, and she'd be peeking through windows and sitting on rooftops and just watching other people's worlds. And I just became so obsessed with how other people live, what other people's lives are like, and just that followed me everywhere. I played a lot of sports growing up as well. I was deeply involved in theater, and then deeply involved in I would go from like theater to ballet to soccer, to I did a writing camp. I was just really immersed in arts. Anything I could get my hands on that could help me express through story. That's what I dove into. And growing up, I always wanted to be an actress. That's what I thought. I was going to be an actress, but a theater actress. That was really important to me, that it was theater. And in so many ways, my work now in storytelling, it all stems from that initial love of theater. Theater, I think, defined my childhood more than anything else.
That's really interesting. So the actress was the dream job.
Yes, absolutely. The actress was the dream job, only because I could play. I didn't care if anyone ever knew me, right? It wasn't the fame I was interested in. It was the opportunity that I could get paid to play make-believe, that I could get paid to dress up and walk in another person's shoes. And it just really helped me to understand and experience all these different walks of life that maybe were different from my own, that I could try on, literally walk a little bit in their shoes, experience what it was like to wear those costumes, to imagine, right? And to step into another person's world or another character's world, and then come back. And any character I played, any theater, whether it was a real character or an animated character or a superhero, it all became a part of how I thought about myself, right? That character sort of stayed with me. So that's what I just thought. If I can make a living off doing this and I can do this forever, that's why I wanted to be an actress.
That's amazing. Okay, so then you went to NYU and studied theater. So tell us about that journey.
So I first started to go. So I thought, like I said, I thought I was going to go. I went to in high school. I was really involved in theater, and that was I was playing sports, but I was really involved in theater. And I thought, this is it. This is going to be my role. This is my trajectory. This is my path. And so I went to NYU for one semester only, because I realized that theater, while I loved it so much, having to choose something so concentrated, having to focus on one thing versus all these other parts of myself that I also was really curious about, right? All these other things that I was really interested about. I just knew that being too focused on one thing was going to limit my opportunity to explore, which is really the thing that drove me into storytelling. So I left and I went to Clark University, where I got what's called a liberal arts degree. It literally allows you to just go sort of taste. I think of it like a buffet. You get to taste from the buffet. You get to be eating around it. It helps to teach you how to think critically. And at Clark, I started to just follow my passion. Follow my passion. I was less concerned about what I was going to be when I was older or how I was going to make money. I was letting myself just be guided by my own curiosity and what really lit me up. And what I found is I ended up majoring in something called sociology, and then I minored in theater because I loved theater and I loved the art of theater. But sociology is really the study of human societies and cultures and how we move in groups and how culture influences us. So I ended up I went to Clark, got my undergraduate degrees, and then I was so interested in the study of culture and story and what helps to inspire us and to imagine differently as a culture that I went and got my master's degree in social anthropology, which is also a deeper study of these human cultures and societies. So I was always so interested. I let my passion for storytelling be the thing that guided me. I had no idea what I was going to be when I graduated. I had no idea what I was going to be when I quote unquote grew up, but I trusted that the thing that I was passionate about, I knew that the thing that I was passionate about was going to be the thing that would open doors, was going to be the thing that made me happy and satisfied in my life, no matter what I was doing, right? No matter how much money I was making, no matter how, what my job title was, that I knew I could be happy if I followed my curiosities and I stayed involved in that. So I ended up, should I share is it helpful to share what happened after graduation? Because sometimes that's a scary hole for people.
No, absolutely. And I think there was a point where I saw you went to Spain for study abroad. So if you want to share that as well, that would be awesome.
Absolutely. So because I grew up in a home where the thing that we valued most in our home was people who could speak multiple languages. It was the ability to speak all these different languages. Again, we're sort of people who love theater, right? They love the exploration. And you can, there's an expression and there's a quote by someone named Charlemagne that says, learn a new language, gain a new soul. So it's this ability to, when we can speak in another language, we get to have access to a whole other world and way of thinking, not just the language, but our brains get to be doubled, right? We get to be multiplied. The more languages we learn, the more our brains grow and multiply. So I had studied Spanish my whole life. I had a lot of friends who spoke Spanish. And so I went and studied abroad in Spain for a little less than a year. And I lived in Madrid. And it was one of the most magical times I've ever had in my entire life. I got to fully immerse myself in a whole other world that was so foreign from the world that I'd grown up in, all these different cultures and customs and music and language. And it just made me realize how big the world is. It made me realize how huge the world is and how it's so much bigger than we can ever imagine, and how many, ways that other people live in the world. So that really sparked my deep curiosity of travel. And I still very, very much, Spain is a huge part of I have to admit something, maybe bad, but I vote for Spain in the World Cup. That's how big of an impression my time goes. So anytime the World Cup is going, I root for Spain because it became another home for me.
That's really, really cool. And I'm curious why you picked Spain out of all the places. And recently I found out my roots are actually from Spain. And when I went there, like you, I was like blown away by the place. It was like, I feel like I belong. So like, yeah.
So I had a root. I had like a 23andMe done, those heritage tests. And I found out that my family has some link to the Iberian Peninsula. So it's either Portugal or Spain, somewhere in there. Right. Spain is magical. Spain has this like depth of passion. Spain is a place, what I think really drew me there? I'm a really passionate person, and Spain creates space for people to be passionate. You know what I mean?
Very
like the music, the colors, the emotions. If you're feeling big, you can express really big. It has this just magic to it. Even the way the light hits the mountaintops, and just like it's also what I found when I was there, that it's really, really a diverse country. It's just incredibly diverse. They're technically a kingdom, the Kingdom of Spain, but it's like being in 5 different countries when you're inside Spain, right? When we think of like bullfighting and flamenco and the red, it's like the southern Spain area more. And then Madrid, where I was, it was more of sort of, that's where the castles are, and that's where the monarchs live, and the kings and queens. So that felt like people felt proud to be part of the kingdom there. And then you go up into the more artist areas of Barcelona, and that's where Picasso and Gaudi and all the art. And it's just an amazing, amazing place. It's so warm to my heart, the Mediterranean. And I actually thought that I was going to go back and live there. That's what I thought after graduate school, I was going to move back and live there. But then I met my husband.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So tell us what you were going to tell us, the in between part of like Sure. college and like finding like what your path is.
Yeah. So I graduated from college, and when you graduate, it's the first time ever that you are out in the world. You're not in school, you're going out there in the world, and there's sort of a pressure on you. I felt a big pressure to know exactly. I was supposed to know exactly what I wanted to do. I was supposed to know exactly who I was meant to be in the world. But the reality is, like, I hadn't tasted enough of the world to put myself in a box yet, right? I hadn't tasted enough of it. And so I just thought, I had no idea where the path was leading, but I thought, let me follow my curiosities. Let me follow the things that light me up, follow things that are curious. So I ended up spending for 10 years, I worked in television and film and theater. And I worked as a producer. I started as a production assistant. And then I made my way up to an associate producer. And then I made my way up to a producer, and then ultimately to an executive producer, or supervising producer, or an executive producer. And I really learned the ropes. I learned what I liked and what I didn't like. And at the end of that, I finally got to a space where after trying and sampling so many ways of being, after building my strengths and my skills so that I could even know what I wanted to do, or what I liked to do, most importantly, right? Is I started my own company. I said, okay, that's one way of doing things. And then I decided I was tired of being one of the only women in the room. I was tired of being one of the only women on set, right? They were starting to have women on set slowly. There were more women joining it, but it was really overwhelmingly male. There were a lot of men, and a lot of men were in the positions of power owning the companies. And I just thought, I love my guys. I have a wonderful twin brother, wonderful dad, wonderful husband, but I just know my ladies can do it. We can do it better. We can do it better. And so I started my own company that's really built off of this more, it's called Common Ground Studios. And Common Ground Studios is meant to show us another way. It's going to help us reimagine what another future can look like for ourselves, right? Because storytelling, that's the power and the influence that storytelling has on us. If we don't see ourselves represented in something, it's harder for us to imagine, right? It's harder. We inherit the imagination of the stories that we get told, right? And that our cultures hand down to us. And so everything that we do at Common Ground is all about showcasing another reality, another way of being. We showcase more women in positions of power. We showcase stories that are not so black and white, that are a little more human, that help us to focus on solutions, right? We're really focused on climate change solutions. We're focused on environmental solutions. We're focused on social solutions. We're just focused on while everyone is focused on how hard and challenging things can be, we are focused on finding solutions for all of that. And I have found that I have predominantly, we're 90% women, female led, and it's just a fun, we're being really well received by the environment now.
That's phenomenal. And I can't wait to hear more about that. But let's go back to the beginning. So I think the first job was at Happy Madison, and that was the PA with Maya Rudolph. Is that right? And so Happy Madison, I think, still is Adam Sandler's company, right?
Right. That's right.
So tell us about that experience. And this was straight out of college?
This was straight out of college. This was straight out of graduate school. So I ended up getting a scholarship for an accelerated master's program, meaning that I could do the master's program while I was finishing up my undergraduate. And I got a scholarship. And so I just took it. And it took me about a year and a half. So right after graduate school, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but this was the time that there were all these movies that were being filmed in Boston and all these shows that were being filmed in Boston. And I had a friend. My dad was a playwright, but he also was a documentary filmmaker. And so my dad had a friend who was working in some of these big studio films and says, oh yeah, Adam Sandler's been shooting a lot of films here. I heard that Maya Rudolph is looking for a personal assistant. And this is right when Bridesmaids came out, right after Bridesmaids came out. And so, of course, I knew who Maya Rudolph was. I had been such a huge fan of Maya Rudolph for like Saturday Night Live. If you remember her on that, she was just game changing. And so I remember driving to the set, and it was this huge lot filled with like hundreds of trailers. And there were, an Adam Sandler set is filled with so many he likes to film with all his friends. So there's so many movie stars on set. There's so many, just people, I remember like even Taylor Swift was on there. This was the early days. I remember her walking by when she was dating the guy from the Twilight series, Taylor Lautner.
Wow. Yeah. That's interesting. We have a Taylor Swift connection because when I was at MGA, she came to sing for us before she started, literally. And everyone told me, don't go downstairs. Don't waste your time. She's not really anybody. And I was like, why did I listen?
Oh no. So you didn't hear. Oh my gosh. I know. I think that's when she was like, I think still country music. When
she first started, I think she was like 15 or 16 when she came to see it. This is like 2005, 6, something like that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. This was probably 2010 for me. So it was like she had started to come into that. So she was still a little bit of a buzz, but not enough that she would be now, you wouldn't be able to walk on that set. But I remember coming up to this. I remember coming up to the set. I had one quick meeting with someone who asked me just a few questions and then dropped me off in front of the door in front of Maya Rudolph's trailer that I had to knock on the door. And I remember inside of her trailer, she opened it up and inside was Chris Rock, Amy, Maya, and Amy Poehler was inside there. And I just thought, I don't mind this life. I don't mind this lifestyle. No, but we ended up working on the sets. It was just incredible to be. Adam Sandler's amazing to work with too, because he remembers everyone's names. Everyone works as a community there.
Really fun.
And it's just fun. It's just a lot of laughter, a lot of fun. And it made me, I just kept following. And when you work, anytime you work on a job that sometimes feels unrelated, you meet so many amazing people. Anything you try out, right? So you meet people on these jobs, even if the jobs seem maybe not exactly what you wanted to do, or you don't know how it fits in, the people you meet on there, they're the ones who end up influencing your trajectory and your path more than anything else. It's the relationships you're making. So I ended up getting like 5 more jobs from that, including a quick job at Saturday Night Live, which was wild to work at, just because you were working all throughout the night and you had to, you had shows that needed to be done in 1 week.
Wow. Yeah. And how long were you at SNL for?
I was at SNL for 8 months. Yeah. It was not a lot of sleeping during that time. And, it's a very, you work all through the night, and I loved it, but I kind of felt like I checked my box. Sometimes, it was fun, but I knew that it wasn't the role for me. I knew that it was just like working till 4 a.m. and doing it. I wasn't passionate about it enough to want to keep going with that. So I ended up switching and going more into documentary and docuseries. Because docuseries allows you to go spend time in all these different worlds. I think that it really satisfied my theater itch, of just going to go spend time with all these different subcultures really intimately, and they welcome you in the same way they would a journalist, like a documentary filmmaker. You are sitting at people's kitchen tables, living rooms, dinners, you're shadowing people. I mean, if you're curious about people, it's the greatest job in the world.
That's awesome. Okay. So at what point were you a host for On Camera? Because I know that happened in between somehow, and then you were casting and being a producer and all the things.
Yeah. So I've been, throughout my career, I come from also an improv background. When I was in New York, I performed at a place called Upright Citizens Brigade. the UCB. There's also one in LA, and it's an improv studio. So it's an improv house. They do performances there. I was part of a team, and so we would perform. And so I always was doing some on-camera stuff and behind the camera stuff. And the more that I was doing on camera, I did some jobs for Netflix. I was hosting some series for Funny or Die. Do you know that platform, the comedy platform?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And then I ended up hosting for 5 years. I executive produced and host a show called Returning the Favor, where we traveled all around the country. It was 150 like big cities to tiny rural hamlets. I mean, we would be in inner city Chicago to just like the hill towns in Appalachia to the Everglades in Florida. And you're just deeply rooted in the industry. And so I would be co-hosting with, do you know who Mike Rowe is from Dirty Jobs?
That sounds so familiar.
Yeah, his voice is the voice of Deadliest Catch. He's a host that's been around for a long time in the Discovery Channel, but him and I were co-hosts of this for so long. And I love hosting, but what I realized for me is that so much of the ability to make decisions is behind the camera. Right? It's sometimes we think we want to be in front of the camera for all of that, but you don't have as many for me, it felt like I had way more power behind the camera and influence to be able to choose and make decisions and to engage. And then I get to go home because I think I work with a lot of famous people. And what I see from working that close to famous people sometimes is that the thing that I love, it goes back to my Harriet the Spy days from being a little kid, is being able to be in a room and observe. And I think when you get really famous, you don't get to do that, right? Because everyone knows who you are within that. So I always just pushed away camera work, and I get to use all those skills I love about on camera as a producer, right? In the interview chairs or behind the scenes or getting people excited. And so I was able to really use that, but it's definitely fun. You should try out every hat, I think. Try out every part of the industry.
That's so true. I think it's really important that you found what you really were meant to do and your passions and everything, because you tried all of it and you were like, okay, yeah, I don't know about this. Maybe I'll try this one. Let's try this one, like all the things. And I think that's most important for our secret agents to know is like, you can try something and you're young enough. So if it doesn't work, it's cool. You still have time to do another thing. And even like now I'm like, I look at Norman Lear and all the stuff that he's done throughout the years, and it's like, it's never too late, right? But like you did it at a young age. And I think this is great for our secret agents to know. Trying new things is always super important. And I'm going to make a point of that for the show notes for sure. Okay. So at what point did you learn about the word STEM? And like, was it like when you were younger, recently? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah. So I really wasn't exposed to STEM for a long time. I think there was, I come from a time of growing up where some of these subjects were really gendered, right? Like you were told you were good in English and history and, the social sciences, and men were often like I would find that the boys that I grew up with were pushed into math and science more, right? And so there was a moment where I remember I just had always sort of digested that, right? These are the stories that we digest from culture a lot of times. And I remember I had a chemistry teacher in the 7th grade, and his name was Mr. Toole, which is a funny name. But he was the first person who illuminated chemistry and made chemistry feel relevant and accessible and exciting for me, and started to allow me to really get an understanding of how little I was exposed to in the STEM arena. And I'm still, I have a lot of friends who are I have friends who are working towards STEM and getting more women involved in STEM and getting more girls involved, because we need girls' minds. We need more minds, and we need women's minds, right? We need those minds of, we're equally good at this, right? As just guys should be pushed into stuff that's mainly pushed towards women. But I really didn't get to know about STEM for a long time. I really wasn't exposed to it. And that's a problem. It's like, it's kind of a bummer when I think back on what other things that I probably would have loved to explore and other parts of myself that I would have loved to see through those eyes and see through the eyes of everything that you can study within that. Like, obviously technology is now being more accessible with us, but like science and the natural world, I am fascinated by that now, you know, and I meet all these amazing women that I work with through my work with environmental and climate studies and climate movements, but I didn't get exposed to it. Like that's really how I feel about STEM, is that I'm bummed that I didn't get that opportunity at a younger age.
Yeah, no, I think that's important because I think a lot of our secret agents have either had exposure or no exposure at all. And I think that's part of why we're doing all of this, to make sure they have access to people like you and the people that we've had on the show so far, to know like it's okay. Like STEM is cool for girls still, and it's like cool to be techie and a nerd and all the things. And like everybody's journey is different, but it's still like a fun experience and you can follow it and learn so much from it. Like that's super, super duper important.
I think I actually would have loved it. Like that's where like the bummer comes from a little bit, because I'm like, oh, I really probably would have loved tinkering with even the engineering elements of it. Like these are things that you know, I also think girls are great at, really great at, but maybe we don't call it that, you know? And so then we don't get the opportunity to get to be a part of, you know, there are so many complex challenges in the world that we need everybody to be involved in, and they're doing their part, lit up by their own passion to help solve, you know? So we need to on board.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I'm curious, did you have any mentors along the way?
I definitely had mentors along the way. You know, some of the people who have, it's funny, like we were talking earlier before we started recording around the breadcrumbs of the career that sometimes illuminate themselves afterwards, right? You look back and you're like, oh, that was so clear. I think for me, the biggest, most powerfully impactful, I've had so many mentors, right? Doing anything alone is a myth. No one does anything alone. We need each other, and we're all deeply influenced by each other. And we have, you know, we have to be working together. That's how anything gets done. But the people who had the biggest influence on me were there were a couple of teachers I had in high school that were the first women I had ever met. They were sort of in their, you know, 30s. I thought they were so cool, but they were the first women who made me feel like I want to be like that, right? They were expressed and curious. They were actually people who were one of them was really into the sciences too. And then there were these theater teachers I had, and voice teachers, and teachers in the arts. And there were actually three of them that had the biggest impression on me, because they made me believe in my own voice. And they made me feel like I could see like I had a bigger voice than maybe what I'd been feeling. Just because, you know, being a kid can be hard, right? And particularly when you're coming into middle school, it's a really confusing time. And having an adult be able to show me how cool it looks, first of all, to be able to try all these different things, and to be someone who's just curious about the world and passionate and confident, that really breeded confidence in me. So I'd say that my two to three high school teachers who were women had the biggest impression on the course of my life. So much.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you recognize that. And it does make a difference to have like someone on your side, on your team, to kind of root you along the way. It's huge.
And it comes in so many forms, right? It can come in I had a friend whose mom was incredibly influential for me, or someone who has, you know, so you just like be aware and start taking where you are getting that positive energy in your life, and then spend more time in those places, even if it feels like it's disconnected from what you think your path is or not. Like those voices fuel us. They give us the confidence to go try new things. They give us the confidence to have a voice.
So true. Yeah. Okay, so let's flash forward to you're working with Hello Sunshine as a senior producer.
Yep.
And was that the home edit, or is that before that?
Yeah, no, that was the home edit. I was doing some other things with them as well, but it was predominantly during the home edit time. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what Hello Sunshine is, Hello Sunshine was founded by Reese Witherspoon, and is essentially a answer to the challenge that most stories that were being told historically in Hollywood did not have a woman's voice. That was not a woman protagonist, right? And not a woman who was the central character, that was told from her voice, that allowed her to be a leader and to be centered in the story, right? usually these women were what we call like accessories. They were additional characters in there with sort of a smaller voice. And so Reese's entire business structure is all around empowering women and empowering female voices. So of course that was such a natural place for me to be at, and such a place that empowered so much of my vision, and also fueled and inspired so much of what I'm doing at Common Ground. There's so many synergies there. But Reese has really been, for anyone who knows about it, it's really disrupted the entire Hollywood market. She's changed everything. She's really been a revolutionary, and just for giving women voices. What a novel idea.
Yeah, it's awesome. I got chills. It's awesome because, ironically, I was going to get a manicure at this place that I always go, and Home Edit was on, and I didn't know anything about the show. And I was like, oh, the colors and like the way they're doing this, it's amazing. And then I found out you did it. I was like, oh my God, no wonder. Like,
yeah, I love those girls. Clea and Joanna from the Home Edit are absolutely amazing. And they really like, it's the first time ever that I'm Virgo. I'm very, very Virgo in my chart, but for my zodiac, but it's harder for me to start the organizing part of it. I really thrive in the organization area, but it was the first time where they really were like, you watch the world, they give peace back to the world by giving you ways to organize, giving you ways to have your life just like, it's a calm environment, a calm mind, right? And it's so true. And they're just hysterical. And like, that's so much of also what TV and film can be like. When you get the right people and you're on the right shows, you're just playing all day. Yes, you're solving problems, and there's stress in the moments, but we laughed. I probably got like a 6-pack from laughing.
I love it. That's awesome. And Emmy Awards too. So tell us about that. Congratulations on those.
Thank you. So I have 2 Emmy Awards. One is for Returning the Favor, and one is for a show called The Singles Project. That essentially was the first time that we were ever using something called it was a multimedia platform. So it was the first time we were ever using social media in a live show. So there'd be things that would go out on Twitter or things that would go out on Instagram, and then they would inform the next episode. So we were really shooting almost live for that. And so that was a really wonderful honor, and that was just so fun to be a part of. And it's fun to get those accolades, and it's fun to move that along. And then there's been some other projects that, I've been fortunate that a lot of things have been nominated for Emmys as well. But it's fun to feel like your hard work gets really rewarded in that way.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think there was also, I read something about a Christopher Award. So tell us a little bit about that one too.
I have that right over there. So the Christopher Award is essentially an award that's given out for sort of, if you're putting things, it's something that, a Mr. Rogers or work like that gets put out into the world of saying you're good in putting good vibrations out into the world. And so that series that I referenced before called Returning the Favor, where the premise of that series is we would travel all around the country. We would be surprising. It was it was called a making of a feel-good show. So we had behind the scenes cameras and an actual camera. So I would have to go around and find these amazing organizations and these leaders of these organizations who are doing incredible things for, foster care, animal protection, conservation, whatever it was. And I told them that they were going to be on this little mom and pop show, and it was going to be this tiny little show. And then secretly we were filming and conspiring with their entire communities, with big organizations, with big businesses to help give rocket fuel to whatever they needed. So if they needed, a school built, or they needed a fleet of cars, or they needed, a new kitchen, a new whatever, we would surprise them with that at the end. So it was called Returning the Favor, because we were returning the favor to these people who, no matter how dark their life was, they endeavored every single day and got up out of bed and just pushed for a new world to be. And they helped make a new world happen in these places. So we got given the Christopher Award. We did 5 seasons of it. We got given the Christopher Award for 3 of those seasons. So that was actually that's the one I'm more proud of than the Emmys.
I love that. I just got chills when you said that. I need to go watch that and figure out and I think our secret agents probably would want to watch that too. So we'll probably have to Google it and find out where it is now, but
awesome.
That's amazing. Yeah. Very, very cool. Okay. So let's see. You've been doing a ton of volunteering and speaking, and tell us what that journey's been like as well.
Yeah. So, it comes back down to this idea of finding your voice, of saying, do I have a voice? Do I have a voice? Asking yourself that question. And, often find that myself and other people, we think, well, what do I have to say about this subject? What do I have to, what do I know about it? And the reality is we all know this, when you've been doing something enough and you have passion, you it's your job to help inspire other people with that, who can help open up and unlock doors in people's minds too, right? So I started speaking probably like 5 years ago, and started speaking mainly around the power of feel good storytelling, right? The power that we have for these stories that can help help us dream bigger, right? To reimagine our worlds. So recently, last week, actually, I just came back last week from speaking at 1% for the Planet, which is an organization founded by the founder of Patagonia, that essentially says all of us are renting from this planet. We're all renting during this time here. And we have a tax while we're renting that we give 1%. If all of us come together with collective action across all different industries, if you're in the beverage industry, if you're in the toy industry, if you're in the environmental industry, if you're in the computer sciences industry, if you're in whatever it is, if we all come together and we give 1% of our annual revenue towards an environmental partner, who's like someone on the ground, right? Who's really doing the work, whether it's saving the whales or it's rainforest conservation or it's whatever it is, we can make a difference. And they have now raised well over $500 million.
Wow. Wow.
Half
Wow.
a billion
Wow.
dollars. And it's just all this really beautiful, the world can feel challenging, and it could feel challenging, particularly challenging right now. And I just want to shine light on these incredible humans and organizations and people who have their head down and they're just refusing to give up, and they're putting, and they're carving a new path. Cause like I've never seen so many diverse people coming together for a shared goal that is really actually making an impact. So that was really powerful. I got to spend the week there. And then sometimes I go around and speak at different businesses. I'm happy to be speaking with you right now, and to the WhizGirls and secret agents.
So fun. Thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate it. On that note, we'd love to hear what you learned when you were 11 years old that you've kept with you today.
When I was 11 years old, remember, I have a twin brother. So when I was 11 years old, I remember my dad sat me down and told me, there is nothing that your brother can do that you can't do. There is nothing that the boys are doing that you can't equally do. You can do anything that they're doing. And that just wired my brain to just believe. I fully believed that. Whether it was even if society wasn't telling me that, I fully knew in my gut, I can absolutely do whatever my brother is doing. I can be interested in things that are supposedly for boys. I can be interested in, I can really, that has allowed me to come in with a tenacity and a strength of belief, of self-belief, that has probably been the reason why I've been able to jump into so many things that, like, I don't know if I would have been confident enough to jump into if I didn't really believe that mainly because it was like a lot of these industries I was interested in were mainly men, right? And I didn't see myself in them enough. So I needed to truly just believe, well, that's because that there was space for me at the table, that I was used to bringing around my own chair, my own chair and my backpack. Just sit
Yeah,
at
I know the feeling. It's yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's wild. Okay, let me switch to some student questions. Let's see. This is a comment and a question. You are a role model and a real life superhero. Thank you. Have you had someone who inspired you in your STEM journey or encouragement that helped you become even more awesome?
Oh, that's beautiful. Wow, there's so many. I had some really wonderful women early on in my career who took me under their wing and really believed and saw what I was capable of before I saw what I was capable of. I would honestly, like, my time with Maya Rudolph, she was incredibly influential because it was one of the first jobs after college. And I just felt like I didn't have a lot of skills. And I just remember her, at one point she said, are you going to keep, like, she essentially said, I'm going to kick you out of the nest because otherwise I'm going to keep you here forever and you should be flying. Right. And so I remember this feeling of, I remember there's this secret magic, and I don't know if you feel like this, Shireen, but like there's a secret magic that women have with other women, that when we believe in each other, it just lights this like fuel, this real superpower in the world of when we believe in each other, that's there's literally nothing that we can't do. When we really fully, like the way that we can, I know it's a long-winded answer because there's so, I mean, I'm only saying this because there are so many women who deeply influenced me. There are so many women. We're standing on the shoulders of giants, of these women who have come before us. And I think just like the deep belief of teachers in my life, employers in my life, who saw what I was capable of and then pushed me out of my comfort zone a little bit to just allow me, because that's how we build confidence, out of our comfort zone, to do one scary thing a day, and then relax and wait till tomorrow. But that's how we're going to grow. And these are the women that I look back on and I think, wow, they really cared. They really saw something in me and protected me.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And I love that. I love the whole thing of like letting you fly. That's so awesome. Okay, another student question. What superpowers do you find that you have that have pushed you to where you are today?
The superpower of why not? And I'm putting the quotations around that. Why not? It's a question I ask myself that every day. Why not? Why is this the way it is? Right? Because it doesn't make sense to me. I think there's another way we can do it. Why not? Why not be able to do that? And my deep curiosity about people. My deep curiosity about people has helped me create connections with other people that has helped to build a lot of trust. And when you have trust between each other and you have you're really able to be, one, it allows you to be authentically curious about the other person, which just only makes you connect with each other more deeply. But it also allows you to build together. Because when there's real trust there, you can, so I'd say the superpower I have is curiosity. Superpower I have is, I want to say chutzpah, but it's like audacity. There's just this this experiment. I'm very comfortable with experimenting. I'm comfortable with trying things and knowing that only way I can learn is on the way, is in the process, right? That I have to get in the arena, get my hands dirty. And I would say my other superpower is I'm really playful. I'm really able to laugh and make things more playful, which makes it feel less scary and makes it not feel like I'm failing if it doesn't go some way, because it's just play. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. I get it. Play is very important. Hence why my company is Playworks. With the E. Yeah. Totally. Okay. Let me switch back. Looking into the future is exciting. What do you imagine for girls in STEM down the road? And how can we make sure that everyone gets a chance to be part of the STEM adventure?
I think down the road for sure. And what I want to be helping with is showcasing, we need more examples of women in STEM for us to be able to pull from and to see and to interact with, whether that's on TV, film, books, whatever it is. We need more representation of what that can look like. I really think that we need more women who are in STEM to let their voices be a little louder in this to help, programs like this, initiatives like this that help people connect and see how absolutely necessary and connected STEM is to so many other things, right? Like you can have a passion for one thing that seems unrelated, but it's all related. It all relates back. This is like the motherboard of all of it, right? STEM is the critical tool that you can use your love of one of the elements of STEM to go and explore another thing you love. But it's all connected back to, the science, technology, engineering, all of that, and math. So just letting women like also recognize and girls to know that this is a place for them to, STEM is a real place for you to feel and gain real power in your life, right? For you to be able to understand how things work, to be able to have knowledge bases that not a lot of people have. Because of this, that connect everything in the world. Everything is connected through this. So I guess my main thing is I really want to see far more representation of this, because we need to normalize it. I really regret and feel like I missed out on not being exposed to it at an earlier age. Who knows what I would have, what my path would have looked like. But I didn't even feel like it was for me or available for me. And that's a bummer, because I would have loved it.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And I think you're absolutely right. It's like opportunities like these that are making awareness huge, because like I never had an issue with STEM back then. It was very much a thing and it was all about equality. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. And then somehow Barbie said math was hard. And thank God I wasn't working there when that happened, because I would have probably had a fit. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's wild, totally wild. But it's really helpful. Okay. What advice would you give our aspiring secret agent trainees in the audience?
Try everything. Try everything. You don't even know what you like or you don't like yet until you try. You just, think of all of life really as this big curiosity adventure, but particularly at the beginning, particularly up until, at least until you're 30, try everything and let yourself really get to know what you like, what lights you up. I think sometimes when people know what they want to do, that limits them from getting to try so many other things as well that could just will only inform and make what they're passionate about even stronger and more interesting and more dynamic. And you never know, because our relationships are the most influential thing in our life. The more you limit, if you don't go try other things, you're going to limit all these pathways and all these doors that could be open to incredible opportunities.
That's a really good point. Okay. How can our special secret agent trainees follow your journey moving forward? Is it Instagram, your website, LinkedIn? What's the best way?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. You can follow me and any of Instagram, LinkedIn, my website, but follow me on my Instagram. It's Sarah, SarahYourgrau, my full name. And then you can follow along at commonground-studios.com. But that's where I think you'll have the most fun following along.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. All right. We're going to do key takeaways in a minute, but let's do the quick 60-second fun question. So, favorite toy growing up?
Oh my gosh. My favorite toy growing up was the Skip It. Do you remember that? The Skip It, where you would jump around it and it would slam and your ankles would be bleeding at the end?
Yeah. I have a feeling that was Hasbro. I have a feeling.
I think it was Hasbro. I was going to say it was either Bop It or Skip It.
Yeah. No. I know exactly what you're talking about, because, yeah. Awesome.
I love that idea for hours.
Yeah, that's the only company I never worked for, Hasbro. Ironically, they had a huge entertainment division, but now Mattel's taken over, obviously, so that's interesting. But yeah, when I was there, by the way, when I was there, I heard never, ever are we doing a Barbie movie, so that's another whole conversation we'll talk about later. Okay, so favorite video game?
Favorite video game? I loved, do you ever play the Tony Hawk game? I loved the Tony Hawk skateboarding game, and just I would play it for hours and hours and hours. Could only do one trick, was just like grinding on rails the whole time. But I just thought, I am a skater girl. I am the coolest skater girl in the world.
Yeah, so true. And I think it's interesting to put you in that space of like, hey, I'm a girl and I can skateboard just like everybody else. Like, who
Totally.
cares? Yeah,
Totally.
I love it. Okay, favorite superhero?
I thought that let's see. My favorite superhero, it's hard for me to know exactly. I mean, Wonder Woman was a representation. I sort of liked the kind of I liked the spiciness of Black Widow. I liked that sort of or Storm I loved.
Awesome. Favorite sci-fi, and is it Star Wars or Star Trek or both?
Star Wars.
Yes, the force is strong with you for sure. I feel it. Okay, favorite show or animated series as a kid?
Wow, favorite animated series as a kid. Gosh, there were so many. Really, really young. I loved the show. This is so dorky. I loved the show Arthur. Did you ever watch that?
That was so cute.
It was so cute. But there were other funny ones. There was one for ABC used to do this thing called One Saturday Morning.
Oh yes, I do remember that.
And there was a show called a Recess that I really liked. And then I also loved Hey Arnold.
Oh, cute. Yeah. Very cute. Okay, we're going to do key takeaways now. And let us know if we missed anything. Pursue in your dreams and interests. Take risks and challenges. Push out of your comfort zone. Look up to the role models in your life. Be open to questioning. Develop a deep curiosity with people. Be comfortable with experiencing and trying. Find connections between your passions with STEM. Try everything. Let yourself get to know what you really like.
Yeah, I think maybe I'd even say like follow the voices who are lifting you up. Follow the people who are lifting you up because they can come in these strange places and packages that maybe are non-traditional that I think are the things that make all the difference. Like if, really learning to enjoy the voice that's lifting you as well. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your journey with us on WhizGirls Academy today. I know that our super secret agents are going to be super excited to probably reach out to you once they listen to this. So thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. And we're so happy to have you. And we'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you.
Bye.